Everyone, welcome to the Ball and Chain. Apologies we didn't get a video out on Friday. Well, we did, but there was no sound. I had some technical issues with my laptop. We published the video, realised it was a mess, and just gave up, really. Got upset, got the face on, and no video happened. However, we're back today, and we'll play catch up with the football, and we'll play catch up with the market. So, two separate videos coming your way, one for football and one for crypto. This is the intro for both, so we'll drop the links to the other one, vice versa, so you can make sure you can catch up if you want to watch them both, or feel free to choose which one you prefer, depending if you're into football or into crypto. But if you're into both like me, then you've got it all to look forward to today. So without further ado, grab a drink, sit back, strap in, you know how we do it, and let's crack on with the videos. Enjoy the shows today, everybody. Hey everyone, welcome to the football update. We're back operational. Thank the Lord we can finally catch up on the mountain of football that's accumulated as a result of me not doing a video for a full week. We had football each and every day since I last recorded the video. So we've got a marathon. I'll try and keep it brief, but I'll make sure you are fully bang up to date from last Monday to today on everything that's happened from the league football, from EPL and EFL, right into all the European competitions. So you bang up to date, you know what's happened, you're right in the picture, you know where the league tables are, and you are fully informed, ready for this week's kickoffs and matches that are happening. Okay, let's crack on. We've got a lot to go through. I'm going to start with the Prem, then start with Europe, because they're probably the things that people are most interested in. Then we'll go Champ, League 1, League 2, and then we'll set the scene for the rest of the week and start looking at getting ready for next weekend and all the action that's going to take place then. Okay, let's start off. West Ham featured Monday and Friday. If you're a West Ham fan, you got a lot of football, but in a very, very short space of time for the Premier League. More like championship fixtures in terms of the fast turnaround that West Ham got. And unfortunately for Nuno, it wasn't great. 2 defeats in the space of 5 days, really. West Ham lost to Brentford 2-0. Brentford on fantastic form. As you can see, peaking up there, Brentford had a really great week, didn't they? In contrast, stark contrast to West Ham. Leeds beat West Ham in the Friday kickoff, a 2-1 victory. And that's where we got to. Saturday was a short game for football, not really much on because of European football the previous week or the week leading up to that. So a shock result, or maybe it wasn't, with the way Sunderland are playing at the moment. Sunderland beat Chelsea 2-1, which great result for Sunderland. Continues their absolutely great form at the moment, and look at where they are in the table. We'll find out in a second, but they are really, really tearing up the league. Newcastle beat Fulham 2-1. Manchester United had their 3rd win on the bounce. Is the chap finally going to get his 5-win haircut? Could happen. It's looking more likely than it's ever looked before. Man U got a great result against Brighton. Has it finally clicked for Almiron? Are Man U now going to become a top 4 contender rather than what was jokingly considered a relegation candidate, even though we knew that was never going to happen unless serious things went wrong? But Man U look to be reviving now. 4-2 against Brighton, fantastic result. And then Brentford, as I said before, continued their great form and looked more misery on slot and their poor defensive contributions. If you look the previous few seasons, one thing about Liverpool was they had a really rock solid defence and keeper combination, and that back line really kept Liverpool strong, but it's not happening now, and they are shipping goals as well as conceding, but unfortunately it didn't work out, and Brentford had a great result, and they really deserved that result. No one can argue that. Moving on to Sunday's fixtures, and we had a marathon of games on Sunday. 4 2:00 kickoffs and then 1 4:30 kickoff. That is now GMT time, I will say. Bournemouth continued their great form. They beat Notts Forest. So Notts couldn't build on their result in Europe, which I'll preview shortly. And Forest were beaten 2-0. Sean Dyche's Forest were beaten 2-0 by Bournemouth, who were on fantastic form, and a great result for them. Arsenal continued to grind out results, and that was 2 bad results now for Palace. Their form was fantastic. They look to have dipped off a little bit. Is that a blip, or is that going to continue for Palace? They were surprise defeat in Europe, which we'll preview shortly, and then not so surprising defeat to Arsenal, who kept a clean sheet. Like we're talking about Liverpool when they won the league or were so dominant, it was based on a solid defensive backline. And it looks like Arsenal have built that now with the backline they've got, and they're getting results and continuing to get results. Is that championship form? Is Arteta's project finally going to come to fruition? And are they going to get... They've been up there and thereabouts. Is this year their year? It's looking likely, but it's still very early on. We're only in October, aren't we? Let's not get too carried away. Villa got the surprise result of a day. Haaland had a goal disallowed, probably breaking a lot of football FPL managers' nightmares, with breaking hearts with that disallowed goal. But a very great result for Villa. But as well, Villa had a very poor result in midweek as well, in the Europa League. And then come back and beat City at home is a fantastic result, and a much needed 3 points for them. City, very surprising result. I was expecting City to go and get a result against Villa, but it just goes to show this season is a bit of a lottery. Anybody seems to be able to beat anybody on any given day, as the table will show, and we show it shortly. And Wolves continued to struggle. It was a late winner by Burnley to give them the points. And again, the promoted sides are putting up a real fight this season, more so than we've seen in the last few seasons. Is the Premiership changing? Do we think that the Premiership's, I'm not going to say getting easy, but is there an opportunity for promoted teams who, these are good promoted teams who went. Sunderland have spent well, invested well, and have got a fantastic manager. They've earned their right to be where they are. Burnley and Leeds still not been away from the Premiership that long, and therefore does that mean that they had a solider foundation than any other promoted team, and therefore is it such a surprise that they actually got promoted and are doing so well, or staying, they're not rooted to the bottom like we've seen before. Wolves have been there and thereabouts for many seasons. Have their chickens come to roost now, and are they finally going to get relegated after years of dodging it? Everton were on good form, but a great performance by Tottenham, particularly Mickey van der Ven. If you've got him in your dream team, which I have, and he saved me this week, I put bench boost on, which was an absolute disaster, but Van der Ven looks to have saved me and kept me top of both my leagues, which is fantastic. So very, very good away result for Spurs. That concludes the fixtures over the course of the week. So let's have a look at where that leaves us in the Premier League table. We'll start bottom to top for a change. Again, compounding defeats. Look at those bottom of the table. Their form looks awful. Fulham, Forest, West Ham and Wolves all look, reds across the board. A couple of greens, couple of greys, but really form is awful for those bottom four. It doesn't bode well. Burnley won the last two on the bounce, which has propelled them really out of danger. Same with Leeds. That win has put them on 11 points and puts them in a really strong position. Everton, who were right up there earlier, seem to have hit a bit of a tough patch of form and therefore dropped down to 14th. Brighton, mixed bag. Defeat against Man United has dropped them right down. Same with Newcastle. They've been hit and miss. They're 12th. Brentford's form has been pretty good of late. 2 wins on the spin, which has moved them right up to 13th. And again, Crystal Palace, who were doing so well, have dropped right down for 10th. But it is so tight, so tight. One result can move you between the top 10, between 5th and 11th. It's just crazy tight around that spot. But, again, Arsenal seem to be pulling away now, don't they? 22 points for Arsenal, which is a decent return. They've only lost once in 9. Their form is phenomenal at the moment, and a 13-goal difference puts them in a really, really healthy position. Bournemouth, is it a surprise? Is it not? They lost a large portion of their of their defence, which was again the cornerstone of their great activity. But they seem to be getting results and seem to be playing very well. They've replaced exceptionally well. Their recruitment has been excellent, and their squad is very strong. And look at that. 18 points after 9 games. That is a very, very good return considering some of the fixtures they've had. Will they be there at the end of the season? Time will certainly tell. And again, honourable mention and a big shout out to Sunderland. Who would have expected this? Well, who would have picked that top 4 out at the start of the season? Guarantee nobody. Nobody would have said Bournemouth and Sunderland would be in the top 4. Hopefully, maybe it's after 10 games, but certainly at 9. And their form looks excellent, doesn't it? They've only lost 1 in the last 6. 2 wins on the bounce for Sunderland. Fantastic performances and form. But Arsenal are the form team at the moment. And they look unstoppable at the moment and definitely look set for the Championship. I've got to also say, look at Liverpool's awful form. 4 defeats in a row. They got a great result in Europe, which we'll preview shortly. But they can't translate that into their form in the Premiership. And it looks like they're struggling at the moment. So that's the Premiership table. Arsenal leading, rooted to the bottom are Wolves, West Ham and Forest. Okay, that concludes our roundup at the Premiership for the last week. Let's dip into Europe and scroll down. So we'll start from Tuesday, which is where we left off from the Premier League. That started Monday and we previewed the whole week's fixtures. Let's quickly canter through and pick up some of the big results that happened in Europe over the course of the last week. We had Barcelona having a fantastic result against Olympiacos. Similar to Arsenal, who had a great result against Atletico Madrid. Very surprising 4-0 result, but again, continues Arsenal's strong form. Particularly, they're keeping clean sheets as well as scoring goals. Fantastic. Arguably, the game of the day, though, was Bayer Leverkusen against PSG. 7-2. Both teams having a man sent off as well. 9-goal thriller. What a fantastic entertainment. Maybe not so if you're a Bayer Leverkusen fan, but look at their downfall since Xabi Alonso's left. He's got to take a lot of credit for what he built there. They have sold quite a number of players, but still, Paris Saint-Germain are a strong team. They're a goal-scoring team and they're an entertaining team to watch, aren't they? Copenhagen and Borussia Dortmund, again, would have arguably been probably the game of the day had we not had some great results happening across. It was a really, really goal fest, wasn't it? No game was 0-0, apart from the Paphos game, which isn't surprising. There were 2 poorest teams probably, arguably in the league phase, and they saw a 0-0 draw, which is probably a good point for both of them, arguably. Newcastle continued their good European form with a 3-0 victory over Benfica. PSV, with probably the result of the day, actually, the underdog result of the day, beating Napoli 6-2 at home. What a fantastic result that was. Inter Milan beat Union 4-0, and Manchester City beat a very good Villarreal team at home 2-0 as well. So that summarises where we got to on Tuesday. Moving into the Champions League on Wednesday. Athletic Club Karabag 3-1. Let's just have a look and pick out some of the key results. You can see where the result. Atlanta got a disappointing draw against Slavia Prague. I think at the start of the game they would have been targeting certainly a result there, wouldn't they? They needed that win, didn't get it. Where does that leave them now? Bayern, not a surprise, 4-0 victory against Club Brugge. Dominant as usual. Harry Kane bagged a goal as well, or a couple maybe there. Good performance from Bayern, but you wouldn't have expected anything less at home. Chelsea, fantastic result, 5-1 against Ajax. Did that burn them out? Again, you look at the results. Fantastic results for Chelsea and Liverpool, but then suffered defeats at the weekend. Is that a pattern that we need to be cognizant of moving into the weekend's fixtures? When teams give their all in Europe, are they gassed out then when it comes to the weekend? What do you think? Do you think European form constitutes a struggle in the league at the weekend? These guys have got good squads though. You would expect they alternate if fitness is an issue or fatigue's there. Especially this early in the season. Very difficult, isn't it? Monaco and Tottenham played out an 0-0 draw. That's probably a decent point for Spurs on the whole, especially considering they got a positive result at the weekend. So that is interesting as well. Let's move on to Real Madrid, and Juventus was probably the premium fixture of the day. 2 massive clubs playing each other, and Real Madrid got the 1-0 victory. I was expecting a lot more goals in that game, but a very, very good result for Real Madrid, nevertheless. And then Sporting beating Marseille. Marseille were 1-0 up, had a man sent off, and Sporting came back, capitalised on that, and got a very good result. They need to pick up results where they can. That was a very important fixture for them to get the win. Moving on to Thursday's games. We then had the Europa League starting and kicking off, so we'll go through those. Rangers again continued their miserable form with a 3-0 defeat by Brown. I've heard Danny Roll has become new manager of Rangers, so we'll see what happens there. Very good manager, and it'll be interesting to see if he can turn it around. Villa was surprised beaten by Go Ahead Eagles. They actually Go Ahead weren't ahead, and then they went ahead. So Go Ahead were losing. Aston Villa got the early goal, and then Go Ahead Eagles came and fought back with an equalising goal before half time or just after, and then a second on about 60th or 70th minute to condemn Villa to a defeat. However, they got the sort of result on Saturday, didn't they? Sunday, sorry, with a victory over Manchester City. Which one is the best result there? I don't know. Olympique Lyon beat Basel 2-0. Ferencváros come back from being, I think it was 1-0 down, and came back and won 3-2. Fantastic result. Sporting Braga continued their fantastic home form. 2-0 victory over Red Star Belgrade. Celta Vigo and Nice 2-1. Celtic got a good victory against Sturm Graz. Feyenoord got a good result against Panathinaikos. Freiburg beat Utrecht. Lille surprisingly lost for Poke away. Midtjylland won 3-0. Philip Billing getting a goal there. Good transfer for that. Good signing for them. I'd have liked to have seen him Sheffield United, but he's gone to Midtjylland, understandably. Malmo drew with Dynamo Zagreb. Forest got a great victory to shut the first game of Sean Dyche era. Dyche ball was back and got them a great result against Porto, but they could not translate that into a victory when they played Bournemouth at the weekend. However, Bournemouth are an excellent team at the moment. Plitzen got a great result again in Roma, at Roma, which was probably arguably the shock result of the day. And then Young Boys beat Ludogorets 3-2. AK Athens thrashed Aberdeen. Shocking result for Aberdeen. Great result for AK Athens. Scrolling down, looking at some of the fixtures. Rayo Vallecano played out a 2-2 draw against Hacken. Fiorentina beat Rapid Vienna. Shakhtar Donetsk, they used to dominate at home, didn't they? But they lost 1-2 to Legia Warsaw. Scrolling down, Strasbourg couldn't put the Polish team to bed, and again another shocking result. Crystal Palace, their poor form continues. They lost to AEK Larnaca, which is a surprise. Mainz won again to continue their good form in Europe. Samsunspor won 3-0 against Dynamo Kiev, who are usually a strong team but not that strong, and the other results can be seen on screen there. So that was the go. I'm going to look for Friday. There was a couple of Conference League games. So what happened was the game between Reykjavik and Sport Prague was called off due to adverse weather. They replayed and Reykjavik won 1-0 against Sport Prague. Again, quite surprising. So that summarises the scores and results across Europe. I'm not going to go and look at the leagues yet because it's very early days. Maybe at the next show, because we'll have a lot less to summarise, we'll go through and showcase the leagues on a Friday after the next round of fixtures so you can see where everyone stacks up. But I suspect what that will translate to is that all favourites continue to maintain their strong presence across Europe, and that there's been, VAR a couple of surprise results, like the Palace one, like the Roma one. The major top guns, especially in the Champions League, seem to be dominating and continuing, and I don't think there's any surprises or shock results at the moment as we progress. Okay, let's deep dive down into the Championship and start to go through those. So let's have a look at some of the results over the course of last week, because we've got quite a few to preview. We did miss quite a lot. So Tuesday had nearly a full fixture list. I'm going to pick out some of the key results. Birmingham got a good result against Preston, who were very strong at home but got beaten. Ipswich got beaten by Charlton, which was a surprise fixture. Leicester got beaten by Hull. Derby in arguably a 6-pointer between Norwich 1 and Sheffield United again got their second league victory in a row, beating Blackburn Rovers 3-1, which was a great result and moved Sheffield United out of the relegation zone. Again, Bristol City beating Southampton was again another surprise result. Moving on into the later fixtures, on Wednesday we saw Middlesbrough beat Sheffield Wednesday 1-0. It could have been 3 or 4, and Sheffield Wednesday were very lucky not to get their keeper sent off. Also, Sheffield Wednesday went into administration as well. So as we were saying, Sheffield Wednesday got plumbed into administration, unfortunately. After going into administration, that means an automatic 12-point deduction. That was a result of a winding up order by HMRC that plunged them into administration. They owed £1 million to HMRC. That's the only thing that can trigger administration owing money to HMRC. That happened. Chancellor is now out, and Sheffield Wednesday will be looking for new owners at the moment. So that's probably the best news possible actually for Sheffield Wednesday. Going into administration, their existing chairman exiting, and now their club will be sold, and hopefully they can start to turn that around as a result of that sale, or the sale that will ensue as a result of them going into administration. Wrexham got a good result at home to Oxford. Watford, again, very, very surprising but good result against West Brom, and Queen's Park Rangers beating Swansea. That summarised the results from the week. Let's move into the weekend fixtures. Sheffield United played again, and I've got to say, like, the amount of fixtures back to back, Saturday, Tuesday, and then Friday for Sheffield United, it's really unfair. And was it fatigue? I don't think you can really say that. We've got a good enough squad, but beaten 3-2. Sheffield United were fantastic first half, went in at 2-1. And a very late goal by Preston brought them back into the game, and it was the worst thing to happen to Sheffield United. As soon as we started the second half, I turned round and I said, I hope we don't want to concede the next 5 minutes. We need to stay tight, and we didn't. The ball ricocheted off Tanganga and went into the net, made it 2-2, and then Preston were buoyed, and it had to be Jefferson getting the winner, didn't it, to beat us. And we offered very little in that second half. We really lost all sort of hope and form as a result of that, and therefore we lost the game, which was very disappointing. We failed to capitalise on 2 very good wins and really should have made it 3 out of 3. Chris Wilder was despondent at the end of the game, said players needed to step up. Defence is the foundation. Shipping 3 goals is not a Chris Wilder result, and very disappointing. But we are where we are. Lots of work to be done for Sheffield United. Swansea beat Norwich. Again, great result for Swansea after their poor defeat against QPR. Plumps so much pressure on Norwich, that defeat. Sheffield Wednesday lost to Oxford. I was expecting a bounce back from Sheffield Wednesday. That didn't happen, and they lost out to Oxford. Millwall beat Leicester, and Millwall at home are a very strong team, and Leicester are struggling at the moment. Wrexham took a lead against Middlesbrough, but Middlesbrough managed to equalise. Hull and Charlton played out predictable, both teams score. Our tip for the weekend was Middlesbrough both teams score, and Wrexham, they both came off, unfortunately let down by some other results in the league. Derby got a good result against Queen's Park Rangers. They play Sheffield United on Saturday. Be interested to see what happens there. That's arguably a big game for Sheffield United, but a very good result for Derby. Moves them out of any relegation fears at the moment with two wins on the bounce, which is arguably really strong here. Bristol City got another great win. That's 2 results on the bounce for them. And Blackburn, a much needed victory after losing to Sheffield United in midweek, managed to capitalise and get 3 points by beating Southampton, who are struggling at the moment. Stoke City beat Portsmouth, continues their good form. Ipswich managed to change reverse their current form. They lost to Charlton, but then have recovered now and beat West Brom. That's 2 defeats in a row for West Brom. And to summarise the weekend's action, and again, Coventry continue to run away, don't they? 3-1 victory against Watford. I'm not going to preview the fixtures this week. We have got a list of games, but I'll showcase them and the results on Friday and look forward to the fixtures that we've got coming up. So how does that leave the Championship table as it stands at the moment? Sheffield United dropped back into the relegation places with that disappointing defeat to Preston North End. But look, Norwich are there. You certainly wouldn't have had Norwich and Sheffield United in those relegation places. Sheffield Wednesday have had the automatic points deduction, taking them on now -6, having a 12-point deduction to their season. That arguably confirms their relegation, doesn't it? They're already 16 points from safety. It's going to be a mountain for them to climb, even at this early stage. 4 defeats on the bounce. Norwich, 5 defeats on the bounce. It's not looking great for Norwich either. Things have got to change for them. Sheffield United did look like they turned a corner, but unfortunately, old habits did die hard, and they lost 3-2 to Preston. Blackburn, again, have a game in hand, and that result at the weekend pulled them back out of relegation. It is a real cat and mouse game there, isn't it? Southampton are down there as well, which again, you wouldn't have had that, would you? Very surprising for them to be right now. With the quality of squad they've got, they should be in that position, but arguably you could say the same about Sheffield United and Norwich. Oxford make up the trailing pipe. Let's have a look at the top end of the table. So, the top 2 are Coventry and Middlesbrough. Again, Coventry have been in insane form, haven't they? They've not lost all season. They've won 6 on the bounce, probably even more than that. They are the form team. They look amazing. 25 goals is their goal difference as well, which far surpasses anybody else. They play Sheffield United at home on Tuesday. I can't say anything other than a Coventry thrashing Sheffield United, which is... It pains me to say, but they are an awesome team, and Frank Lampard has got them playing fantastically. Middlesbrough come up in second. Again, some questionable form, but they still maintain their strong record and a second. Millwall's recent 4 wins on the bounce puts them third and fully deserving that position as well. Bristol City, 3 wins on the bounce has got them and propelled them up to 4th. Stoke are doing well. Charlton right up there. Great performances for them. And that win for Preston against Sheffield United moves them up. Just missing out on goal by 1 goal of going above Charlton, but they're fighting for that. And Hull City have done amazingly well when you consider the situation they were in a transfer embargo. I think they're under. They brought in some fantastic free signings, including McBurney. I'm going to regret Sheffield United not. I think Sheffield United are regretting not taking that signing. They could have signed him. They turned not to. Hull. Sheffield United loss was Hull's gain, and they are definitely benefiting from the McBurney impact, and doing very well in 8th position. I don't think you'd have had them there, arguably. So that summarises the Championship. Let's quickly move down and canter through League One incredibly quickly. So we had some results. I'm just going to look at the results from the last week. So in the midweek, we had Reading beating Northampton and Exeter beat Plymouth. Don't think any surprises there. Moving on to Saturday's fixtures. We had Wycombe beating Huddersfield, very good result. Huddersfield had a man sent off. Stevenage and Bradford drew out a good point for Bradford, really, away at Stevenage, were the form team in the league. Doncaster drew with Reading. Blackpool got a great result against Peterborough. Blackpool struggling, but so are Peterborough, and I think Peterborough sacked their manager, Darren Ferguson, many years after that result. Luton Town turned their form around and got a very good result away at Northampton. Lincoln, who were playing very well, losing to Leyton Orient. Leyton Orient do get some good results, don't they? They're definitely not a team to be sniffed out or missed out on. Barnsley surprisingly lost to Rotherham, but Rotherham's upturning form continues. And another surprising result. You just cannot bet on teams to win, can you, in League 2? It's just League 1. It's not worth it. AFC Wimbledon won amazing form, but Burton have this amazing record of when they're the underdogs seeming to come back and get great results and beat Wimbledon. Wigan drew with Mansfield, and Bolton got a very good result against Cardiff. Where does that leave the table? Cardiff continued to be top though, but look at the number of teams locked on 26 and 25. Look at Bolton are only 3 points behind the leaders. It is incredibly tight from 7th to 1st there. There is a 4-point gap to 8th though, so there's a slight cushion building there, and you're starting to see a bit of a breakaway there. But then when you look from that position, you're only 3 points on 17th, right down to 22nd position. So it is incredibly tight. And when you look at the form, you've got nobody who's coming into it, with the exception of Huddersfield, who seem to have lost 3 on the bounce, but nobody else who's really... Everybody's getting points so nobody's going on a real losing run. Northampton look like they might be going. Nobody's on a real winning run either. It is such a difficult league to predict because anybody can beat anybody. Stockport play tonight. It'll be interesting to see because if Stockport win tonight, they go top and start to build a little bit of ground against everybody else. That is League 1. Let's shufty on to League 2 and have a look at some of the results over the course of the week. So, Swindon played out a 2-2 draw with Notts County. Both teams to score, no surprise there. Over the weekend, let's summarise the results real quick. Tranmere Chesterfield, which we predicted both teams to score. The one that was a massive surprise to me was Swindon and Colchester drawing 0-0. Both those teams that have scored consistently, and for them to draw 0-0 was incredibly disappointing and broke our ACCA hearts. They killed the ACCA. Everything else came in apart from that one result, which is infuriating, isn't it? Oldham drew with Shrewsbury. Notts County got a good result against Cambridge. Newport again, it's so impossible to predict results in this division. Harrogate were strong favourites coming into the game, but Newport County came and battered them. There wasn't even both teams to score, which is incredibly shocking. Gillingham lost to Salford. Crewe beat Grimsby. Crawley got a fantastic result, and Bristol Rovers are in real trouble at the moment. They're on a real losing spree, and Crawley got a fantastic and much needed 4-0 result. Milton Keynes Dons, again, another form team losing at Bromley. Barrow and Barnet played out a 2-2 draw. Fleetwood beat Accrington, and Cheltenham again. Another result. Walsall running away, doing really well. Cheltenham, form improving, but right down at the bottom of the table, and what happens? They beat them. Can't predict anything at the moment. So where does that leave the table? Well, Walsall are still top despite losing their last 2 games, but in line with that, Swindon have drawn their last 2 and lost. So mirrored their results each other, and they're both on 26. Salford have won the last 2 that's pulled them down. As I say, Milton Keynes Dons were having some great form, but have started to pull back. That defeat, they'd have won again, that would have put them top of the league, but you can't. So difficult, isn't it? Notts County pointing in some good form though. They up the form team at the moment. You start to pull some form away, but all of a sudden they seem to mess up. That's just the course of the game, isn't it? At the moment, Grimsby lost, so they drew points. Gillingham lost again. Crewe are starting to build points. They were up, then fell away, and now they seem to be coming back into contention. But again, very similar to League One, there's no consistency of form here, is there? Shrewsbury starting to pull some form together, Cheltenham starting to pull some form there. Maybe these lower teams, Cheltenham and Shrewsbury, seem to be the teams to watch who are picking up some form. Bristol Rovers on free fall at the moment, lost 4 on the bounce and don't look very good. Same with Harrogate, lost 4 on the bounce despite being strong favourites at the weekend, but they are massively struggling. And as a result of that, you can see Newport County starting to pull some form together, and there's not much between. There's only 3 points between 24th and 19th. It is incredibly tight down there. Very similar to the top, very similar to the League One. Look at that, 22 points. There are only 4 points, but 3 points separate 7th from first. It is incredibly tight, and again, nobody's pulling away. It's not like the Championship, like with Coventry's form. Nobody's pulling away, so it's going to be really interesting to see how the rest of the week plays out. Okay, that has been a fantastically quick summary of where we're at the moment with football. We're taking you right up to date, right from last Monday to this Monday. Summarised all the action, starting with the Premiership. Look to Arsenal's amazing form. They continue to champion up there. And is this their year? Arsenal fans, what do we think? Are you finally going to get your bit of silverware, win the league that you've been crying out for since those Wenger years? And then in Europe, the domination of PSG, of Barcelona and Man City continuing. All the predicted teams, Liverpool did well, Chelsea did well, all the top teams did well. Into the Europa League, where we had strange defeats for Aston Villa, strange defeat for Crystal Palace as well. So some surprises there, and a thrashing for Aberdeen in the mix as well. And then into the Championship, Coventry's strong form continues. Mixed bag in League 1 and League 2. What will happen this week? We've got games again happening in midweek. So let's see. We'll try to, hopefully my technology is working, and we'll hopefully summarise it on Friday. But that gives you an update on where we are with the football. Hope you've enjoyed the stream. Hope you've enjoyed the football. That's giving you bang up to date. Hope that you feel informed, know where everything's at now. We've got another fantastic week of football. Whoever your team is, enjoy, good luck, and I'll see you all at the end of the week. Have a great rest of your week. We're out.